In the first scene, we hear an entry from someone else's diary about the events of the future that awaits us. Mankind has been without rain for 8 years. Water prices are rising. People can't grow their food. In addition, the female voice narrating the diary entry worries about a certain Ruth who is forced to survive being broken. In the new scene, we meet the same Ruth. This is a young woman who for some reason runs away from the police sirens. She has a weapon and ropes are tied around the wrists of both hands. She arrives at a roadside motel and rents a room. Ruth looks lost and asks the woman at the reception what the city is called. She doesn't seem to fully understand where she is. Behind the door of the reception, there is a cry of a child. The motel owner leaves and returns with the little girl in her arms. The sight of the child seemed to disturb Ruth. Ruth pays and goes to her room. There she washes, removes the ropes from her wrists, and treats the bloodied wounds on her hands. As she looks at the map, tracking her path, her hands begin to shake. The woman is scared. And then, for some reason, she removes all the items from the walls and calls the reception, advising the woman with the child to hide under the table and take care of their heads. At the end of the scene, Ruth is lying down on the bed, tying her hands to the headboard, and she is shaking in convulsions. A real earthquake begins. At the end of the scene, we see a motel damaged by an earthquake, its owner and daughter standing on the street, and police cars. Ruth is no longer in her room. She walks down the street and chooses a car to steal, and easily copes with theft. A seismically dangerous thief is not a life to be envied. In the new scene, Ruth is in a diner. A man sitting next to the bar is trying to start a dialogue with her, although the woman is not in the mood for heartfelt conversations. However, he manages to solve the problem with a cup of coffee. He buys it for Ruth. The woman admits that coffee tastes terrible, but she has not drunk it for so long that such a drink becomes a pleasure. They start a small dialogue, but the man does not try to impose on his company. He introduces himself as Bill, says he has a wife and 2 children, and leaves soon after. Later, when Ruth leaves the cafe, she finds a police officer near her car. The policeman is already looking up, but suddenly someone from the side calls out to her, "Honey, I'm here." Ruth has no choice but to get into his car. During the trip, Bill confesses that he is a scientist and has been after Ruth and her abilities for a long time. He was already at the motel where Ruth escaped from at the beginning of the film, and he called the cop. They just want to shove our heroine into some kind of laboratory and experiment on it. Fortunately, this time too, Ruth manages to fight him off and escape. A multi-level chase begins. Ruth flees from her pursuer. In one of the stores, she buys some water, washes, and flushes the blood in the toilet, and goes on. Later, Bill shows up at the same store with a broken nose, asking the clerk about Ruth. Meanwhile, a local police officer discovers Bill's abandoned car on the road with a broken window and signs of a fight, and he too has questions. Ruth asks for food at one of the bars in exchange for cleaning. The owner goes to meet her, feeds her, gives her food to go, and advises her to spend the night in an abandoned motel. Finally, the next day, Ruth appears to arrive at her final destination. We see a cute little house from which a little girl runs out, but a female voice immediately calls the girl back. Ruth looks after her excitedly. We get inside the house. It's very comfortable, with lots of light. In the kitchen, the girl Layla and her grandmother are washing dishes. Can you imagine the process of washing dishes in a world where water runs out? It turns out that the girl has the talent of an engineer. She managed to fix the radio, before that she fixed the toaster, and now she is going to fix the car. Grandma is very proud of her. Layla goes to bed, and Grandma goes out on the porch to smoke. And then she does something amazing. The cigarette in her hands crumbles into colored dust, and this dust swirls beautifully in the air. Real magic. But Ruth appears, disturbing the woman, and the colored dust is dispelled. However, the woman easily turns it back into a smoking cigarette. Apparently, not only Ruth who has superpowers in this film. Ruth says, "Hi, Mom." So Layla is her daughter. From the dialogue between the two women, we learn that Ruth had problems with drugs, but she has been sober for 11 months, which is why her seizures have become more frequent. Her mother is not very happy about her appearance of Ruth, as this can be dangerous for Layla. And yet, she allows Ruth to stay and settles her in a barn and reveals that Layla also has abilities. At night, Ruth again provokes an earthquake. Her mother and daughter are forced to hide in a doorway to protect themselves. Later, after the earthquake, Ruth's mother takes Layla to the barn and introduces her daughter and granddaughter. There are almost no words in this scene, but I got goosebumps from the way Ruth and Layla looked at each other. Bill and his partner, meanwhile, investigate the bag of things that Ruth left in his car and find a teddy bear, and then they go to the local police station. Ruth decides to join her family for breakfast. At first, the situation is rather awkward, but then the women start talking about their abilities. It turns out that Ruth, as a child, could also split things into colored dust. But for her, unlike her mother, it was always accompanied by inexplicable changes in the environment, and then it completely turned into seizures, provoking earthquakes. As a teenager, Ruth could not cope with the load of her dangerous abilities and ran away from home. She made bad friends and started using drugs. Due to the influence of drugs, her seizures stopped and her abilities disappeared. But now she has returned to try to regain both her abilities and control over them with the help of her mother. Layla demonstrates her powers to Ruth by lifting a plate into the air and then turning it into swirling colored dust. It looks really magical. And then the dust became a plate again. At the same time, Layla says that after the thing is collected from the dust bag, she sees a lot of fast-moving colors. Ruth's mother has been able to see colors for 52 years, but the heroine of the film herself has never seen them. The cop who earlier found Bill's abandoned car finds out in the meantime that the investigation is being taken away from him. Some other people from a bigger organization just took all the evidence. I suspect those other people were Bill and his partner. Ruth's mother teaches her how to handle powers and tries to get the woman to split the bucket. Alas, nothing works. Then she reads her great-great-grandmother's diaries to Ruth. It turns out that all the women of this family had such abilities, and they were all forced to hide. Layla tries to help her mother regain her powers. At the moment of their contact with the palms, the glass in the window on the top floor of the house suddenly breaks. Something is clearly happening, but it is not yet clear whether to rejoice at it or be upset. Layla and Ruth collect broken glass. The girl is interested in whether there are still owners of the same abilities in the world. Ruth tells her about a woman, Simone, who could split the sky. But it seems that it was just a fictional character. Ruth's mother tried so hard to cheer her up. Ruth suggests that her daughter try to put the broken glass back together, but nothing works. It's a pity. The policeman left without evidence does not give up. He returns to the road where the car was abandoned and tries to repeat the path of possible passengers from there. So he goes to the store, where both Ruth and Bill were that day, and interrogates the seller. Layla, meanwhile, persuades her grandmother to buy the missing tools to fix the car. Grandma agrees to go to the store, as they need more water after Ruth arrives. At the store, Layla suddenly runs into Bill and his partner. It's good that they don't know yet that this is Ruth's daughter. The girl takes the items she needs and she and her grandmother return home. At home, it turns out that the girl did not pay for everything. She found an original use for her abilities. In the store, she split some of the tools into dust, raked the dust into her purse, and at home she simply restored the split items. An original way of stealing, isn't it? Ruth is gradually moving closer to her daughter. Layla tells her that she wants to get her car fixed so she can go and see the world. It seems to her that their abilities were given to them from above for something important. Ruth doesn't support the idea of leaving home. She has already left, and it ended badly. Bonnie, Ruth's mother, and a stubborn white-haired cop make a secret phone call and meet somewhere in an abandoned stadium at night. The cop tells Bonnie that Ruth is being followed. At home, Bonnie causes a scandal for Ruth. After all, she knew about the persecution but hid it, and put her family in danger. Again. Bill, meanwhile, gets into trouble. His management is unhappy that he missed Ruth when she was already in his hands. But Bill insists he needs a little more time and reinforcements, as they are all on the cusp of a big discovery. Layla, meanwhile, still managed to fix the car. Happy Bonnie and Ruth agree to give this pickup truck to the girl. But then Bonnie notices the stolen instruments and makes a scandal for the girl. While they are all arguing in the yard, the cop, Dean, arrives. Turns out it's Ruth's father. He warns that her pursuers are already close and she needs to leave if she does not want to be a guinea pig in their laboratories. Ruth picks up the pickup truck and prepares to leave. Layla begs to be taken with her, but Ruth admits that she is a drug addict and cannot take such a risk. Layla is offended. Ruth leaves but runs out of gas on the way. We have to leave the pickup on the side of the road and go with the canister to the nearest gas station. On the way, the woman recalls how happy she was with the newborn Layla. These memories cause her another attack, and during the attack, she recalls how she almost caused the death of her newborn daughter. After the attack, the unbelievable happens. It starts to rain. And from everything that happens, it is clear that it was Ruth who provoked the appearance. Moreover, in the clouds, she sees fast colors. This is really a very beautiful sight. Happy Ruth returns home to tell her mother about her abilities. But a joyful meeting did not happen. The house was completely empty and no one was there. A frightened Ruth drives to her father. It turns out that Layla was taken to the police station as she showed her abilities in front of Ruth's pursuers. A frightened Bonnie appears. Ruth tells her mother that she is now in control of both her powers and her seizures. She is going to go to the police station to fetch her daughter and assures her mother that everything is fine. Ruth drives up to the lot. She is calm and determined. She raises her face to the sky, closes her eyes, and splits the sky. Clouds appear and thicken until a real downpour begins. The cops and Bill run outside to the sound of rain. They spot Ruth and point their weapons at her, but in vain. Bonnie is here too, and she won't just let guns be swung at her daughter. One close look from this strong woman, and the weapon crumbles into dust. Bonnie tells the dumbfounded cops about her gift and promises to stay with them if they let her daughter and granddaughter go. She easily splits the doors to the precinct and the cell where Layla was hidden. The girl runs out into the street. Grandmother sends her mother. Ruth and Layla leave while Bonnie stays with the cops. In the car, Layla gives Ruth a note from her grandmother. It turns out that Simone, who knew how to split the sky, really exists. And along with her, other women with such abilities. Now Ruth and her daughter have to find them and together create a new world to replace the dying old one. If you like superhero themes but are tired of Marvel and DC, you can check out Fast Colors for a fresh take. This is a beautiful and slightly melancholy movie. Thanks for watching another Essential Movie Recap. Please like and subscribe.